Hi everybody, it's Davis. Today's video, we're going to go over reinforcement versus punishment in regards to learning theory. These are the kind of things that we use every day in training dogs and other animals. So one of the biggest things is that people kind of think of reinforcement as using treats and punishment as using corrections. The reality of it is that reinforcement means that we are increasing the likelihood of a behavior, and punishment means we are trying to decrease the likelihood of a behavior. So those are the actual definitions for those words, reinforcement and punishment, in regards to learning theory. We can divide those two categories even further into positive and negative reinforcement and positive and negative punishment. So to kind of simplify that, think of positive as adding some kind of stimulus and negative as removing some kind of stimulus. So there's positive and negative reinforcement and positive and negative punishment. So those are the four quadrants that we're talking about when in regards to learning theory. So there are many positive-only trainers and force-free trainers that claim to be using science-based methods. And then on the other side of the spectrum, there are trainers that like to use only compulsive-based methods. The truth of it is that they're both based in science and they can both work, but not every dog is going to be able to benefit from one or the other. There are some that do great with positive-only training, and there's some that do great with compulsive-based training. The majority of dogs are going to be somewhere in the middle, where you need to kind of evaluate what you're trying to accomplish and evaluate the dog in front of you and use the methods that's going to work best for that particular dog. To me, that is true science-based training, which is going to be adjusting our methods to meet the dog and not just using what ideology we prefer. So let's go over some basic examples of what we would want to accomplish with our dog. So some basic behaviors that we would like to increase typically is like basic obedience commands, tricks, walking nicely on leash, things like that. And on the other hand, some behaviors that we would typically like to decrease are like jumping up, stealing food off the counter, not pulling on leash, things like that. So let's try to think about how we can solve these issues by determining what our dog sees as a reward and what our dog sees as aversive. So some common rewards would be, which is a stimulus that you can add or take away. Our treats, affection, and toys or play with a dog. Some common things that dog sees aversive are corrections that come either from a living thing like me or you or a cat or a dog, whatever, or it can come from the environment. So like a baby touching a hot grill or a stove after you've told them not to, they're basically, the environment is correcting them when they touch it and they get burned. So let's take an example of a dog that knows how to sit on command, but is ignoring your command. We're going to try to solve this in 4 different ways using each quadrant of the learning theory. So let's think about this for a minute. Do we want to increase the behavior or decrease the behavior? Do we want to reinforce or punish? The outcome could be the same no matter which one you choose. Now we also need to think of, do we want to add or remove a stimulus? Again, either could be used. So method 1 here is going to be solving the issue with positive reinforcement. So we can add the promise of a treat or other reward or stimulus by either bribing with the treat or using a positive marker like yes or the click of a clicker when they are successful to increase the likelihood that your dog is going to sit when asked in the future. Method 2 is going to be with negative reinforcement. So we would always withhold or remove the reward until our dog complies with the command, while also ignoring other behaviors that the dog does, whether they are desired or not. This will in turn increase the likelihood that the command will be obeyed. Method 3, positive punishment. So this one would be adding a correction via corrective device like a prong collar or pet corrector, spray bottle, etc., or a promise of a correction via a negative marker like tss, or or no, whatever you use normally, to decrease the likelihood of your dog ignoring your command in the future. Method 4 would be negative punishment. So you would remove a stimulus like affection or a toy or playtime, etc., when your dog breaks the sit command, so that you decrease the likelihood that he will break the command in the future. So we just went over the 4 different ways that we could solve this problem of our dog not sitting when asked. That is, if they already know what sit means. If they don't know what sit is yet, then refer to one of my other videos in the basics. But a balance trainer will use any one or a combination of those 4 methods to ensure your dog obeys the command, depending on what it is doing at that moment in training. So you can't really think of, I'm just going to use this method or I'm going to use that method. You kind of have to see how your dog is responding and interacting with you, and how if they're obeying or disobeying, and what rewards or punishment corrective devices that you have on hand. So if all of this confuses you, which I'm sure it can, please contact us or another balance trainer and we can get you squared away. Have a good one.